if you've been wanting to make progress in whatever you're working on, but you're really kind of struggling and you don't know what's really holding you back, then this might be quite an interesting video for you, because I'm going to approach the idea of visualizations and manifestation. And that might seem like a load of bullshit for some people, but I want to put it in a way that kind of makes sense if you take a more materialistic viewpoint and less a kind of spiritual viewpoint on these things. And it actually comes from kind of quite an unexpected source. See, there's this book, and this book has inspired countless people. If you've ever heard of Tony Robbins, it's inspired him. If you've ever heard of Sam Ovens, the guy who created the platform School, it inspired him. If you're in the kind of business side of YouTube, if you ever heard of someone like Charlie Morgan, this inspired him. This has like a very big impact on a lot of people, and I can see why even just after reading like this couple of pages. And it's because it puts manifestation in a more kind of materialist way. It isn't talking about kind of the idea that, if you close your eyes and you manifest things, and then like your conscious and your intentions will like align with what the universe kind of is wanting to create, and then you're going to get like some kind of outcome. It isn't approaching it like that. It isn't saying that manifestation and visualizations come from like future effects. It's actually kind of saying the opposite. And it says that actually visualizations affect the past. Now that might sound wacky, but let me explain for this. You see, like in this book, he kind of explains that your brain is a bit like an AI. Now, when you write into an AI and you give it a prompt, it will generate information for you. It goes out into the world and collects all the information and presents it back to you. But depending on what you prompt it with, it gives you different information. I know there's nothing new there, but this is the interesting thing, because our brains are kind of the same way. When we are thinking about how to solve a problem, we sort of draw on all the information in our brains on how to solve that thing. And obviously, if you have different information, you're going to come up with different results. If someone is having a difficult time with their boss or something, the way that someone from the medieval times who was like a warrior or something, the way that they might resolve that conflict with their boss, it might be very, very different to what the modern day person does. And it's because of all the experiences that they've had in the past. What does this mean concretely? Well, it means that, for instance, say you are trying to build a business, and there's two different people out there. There might be someone who has a whole load of thoughts and ideas about how the business is working out or how it's going, and they're thinking this isn't working. No one's noticing my products. My products suck. They're terrible. No one cares about them. They're not actually really solving a problem or a pain for anyone. And then there's the other person who thinks, yeah, no, this is great. This is fantastic. The product that I sell solves so much pain for people. People are so grateful for it. People are flocking to come to it and are sharing it with their friends. Now, both of them might be actually looking at the same situation, but just from different perspectives. And even if, say, the one who is, who's thinking more positively about it, even if they're deluded, even if it actually isn't the case that their business is doing well or anything, they're going to still act in certain ways that kind of make it more possible for them to achieve that. So with me recording these videos, if I was to sit here and say, no one's watching these, no one cares about it, and I look at some of the data and stuff, and I see that 2 of my last videos got like 10 views each. That's going to affect me so much more in how I actually produce this. But if I actually think, well, actually, no, I have something of value to say here, even if there isn't that many now, like it's going to grow and it's going to expand, then I'm going to have so much more confidence and so much more excitement for what I'm actually doing right now. Now, the thing is, you might hear this and you're going to go, okay, so like, what am I just meant to like delude myself into thinking like positively about these things? You might have even tried something like this. You might have even just sat there like I don't know, like in the bathroom, like closing your eyes while having a shower and going, oh, like, yeah, I'm amazing. Or like, whatever, like I can achieve my goals. And it might just feel phony and fake. And that's fair. Like if you're struggling, and this is one of the hardest things about making progress in anything, whether that's, getting fit, whether that is like getting a partner, whether that's like growing your own business or getting a job in this like economy, or whether it's anything, whether it's learning a new skill, becoming a skateboarder, I don't know, like learning parkour, just getting a good grade, the examples. You probably feel the way you do, and you probably have a negative perception of yourself, and it's probably fair, because it probably comes from your past experiences. Well, no, it doesn't probably. It almost certainly comes from your past experiences. If you don't think you're good at like school, it's because you look back at in your history and you have all these experiences, and they say, oh, like I failed on that test, I don't get on with that teacher, this lesson is boring for me, etc., etc. If you're not doing well in business, or you're not making like the progress that you'd want to make, or you don't like, you're just struggling with that kind of thing, it's because you're looking at all the evidence in your past, and it's fair. Again, I could sit here, I get probably about, on average, maybe 100 views a video at the moment, and I could sit back and I could be like, yeah, no one gives a shit about this. Like, on a side note, 100 is fantastic, and I love all of you. But, it's not exactly like Mr. Beast, is it? And so your negative beliefs about kind of the thing you want to actually get really good at, but you just don't feel like you're actually making as much progress as you want to, your negative beliefs about that are fair. If you're wanting to make progress in something, then it means that you're actually in a state where you don't like it. And so you are going to have a negative viewpoint, because that's the evidence around you. It literally is that. But so you might be thinking like, well, I'm not going to be delusional. Like, all the bits of evidence around me point to me being not very good at this thing. I don't feel right just like looking into the mirror and like trying to hypnotize myself into becoming like a completely different person, and like, like kind of faking it till I make it. Like, I don't know. That isn't, I don't think that's a good way of doing it. And I would agree with you. Like, I don't think that it's right to do that. And I'm not saying to do that either. But what I am saying is that our imaginations are incredible. And what this book points out is that your mind can't really tell the difference between a made up memory and a real memory. And from my understanding, that's because all memories, whenever they're replayed, are actually recreated. So technically, even if you've had experience like 10 years ago, when you recall that, it's actually just your mind recreating all the information and like almost replaying that back to you. So technically, like every memory we have is recreated in some way. And as a very quick side note, that's also why some people can start to become like believe their own lies, because they replay it enough times that the lie then becomes like what they imagine things to be. And this is where you can actually like start to say positive things to yourself, and you can actually not feel like it's fake. Because the idea of doing a visualization is about just creating like the ideal or the positive reality that you'd want to live in. So like a concrete example would be that with this YouTube channel, it isn't getting that many views. But if I sit and have a visualization about what I want it to be into the future, I don't have to lie to myself and say that this is the current future. But what I can think is I can just close my eyes and I can imagine, say, opening up my laptop and I go onto the YouTube analytics and I see that there's 1,400. No. 143,078 views. Let's say that. Like I see that over like the last 28 days. 148,000 or 43,000 and 78 views. That's the intention. That's what I want to be the case. And you can do this with anything, whatever it is that you actually want to get really good at. Now, in my imagination, like, that actually is kind of being stored as a memory. And if I spend just maybe 20 minutes a day, every day, just thinking about that idea and kind of fleshing that out in my mind and thinking like, oh yeah, okay, so I'm sitting at this desk and when I'm closing my eyes, I'm imagining that I'm in this room, and I've got my laptop. I can actually see like my laptop, and I think about like actually opening it up, and I'm thinking about like using the mouse and stuff, and then I attach an emotion to that. So I think like, yeah, I feel a lot of pride because I'm so happy that despite it's not seeming that way, like I really have been able to make a success of this. And I'm proud that I had that self-determination and self-confidence in myself to be able to achieve it. That's the emotion that I'm linking to that kind of visualization I have. Now, we're not lying to ourselves because that is actually just what we hope that the future will be. And that's what we are really intending the future to be. But your mind doesn't know the difference between its imagination and its experiences. It's all just like sensory stuff that it's like captured. And so your mind will actually think about that visualization that we just did just now for me, and it will store that as a memory. Now think about that. Like, if you spend every single day thinking about a kind of visualization of the world that you'd want to live in, and your brain starts to store it as a memory, then you will start living your life in a way that your brain actually thinks that visualization is real. Now, obviously, like, I haven't been a YouTuber with hundreds of thousands of views yet, but if my brain starts thinking I kind of am, then it's going to lead to a lot of kind of knock-on consequences. The perfect example of something like this is, what if you were to go to a party and the whole time before you get there, you're thinking about how it's going to be awkward, how you don't know anyone there, how you're going to stutter, how you're not going to have anything interesting to say, how you're boring and you're worried about how other people feel. You're going to turn up and you're going to be like a nervous wreck. You're going to say things that like are stupid and what you think are stupid, and you're going to be a mess and you're going to be just like unstable. Now, if you went to a party and you just genuinely thought that like you know everyone there, you love them all, or they get on so well with you, you feel like so accepted by them, then your experience is going to be completely different as well. I'm not saying again you need to kind of like just delude yourself into thinking things are successful. You don't need to do that. But what I am saying is, like, when you think about the best possible ideal, you create that visualization. And then when you create that visualization, that actually just gets stored in your brain, and your brain thinks it's a memory. And then when your brain thinks it's a memory, when you introduce yourself to new situations, and like the AI example earlier, your brain has to draw on all the information before to inform you about how to conduct yourself in that new situation, it's going to be drawing on some of those visualizations that you made. it's gonna like inform you and make you think like, oh, hang on, like I'm actually I'm actually, like, I give the example of the party. Oh, hang on, I'm actually really popular. Or, oh, actually, hang on, like, yeah, I'm actually really, like, I'm really good YouTuber and I have like a lot to say. And that informs so much of how you change. I mean, like, the perfect example, at least in my own life, was like a couple of years ago. I was really struggling with like trying to socialize and become better, at just like being friendly and being sociable. I had the perception that I was like really introverted, that I couldn't really make friends easily. And honestly, that was just like I was deluded in that situation. I I spoke about this as a worry to one of my friends, and he looked at me like really confused, and he kind of laughed and he said, "Tom, like whenever we've gone anywhere ever, like you've always seemed to be able to make a friend." Now, in my perception, like yeah, sure, I'm friendly and I'm like like kind to others. I'm always a friendly person. I will always like, try and make other people feel good or ask them a question about themselves. But in my head, I was like, at that time, I was just thinking like, yeah, like I'm sure I'm friendly with people and like, like I'm well mannered and stuff, and maybe people like that. But like, I don't really have that many friends. And just taking his idea and actually thinking, oh, but like, what if I am actually just looking at this completely in the wrong way? Like, I'm so inside my head, I don't actually see what other people see. And other people see that wherever I go, I make friends. I took that as like the new idea. I took that and I internalized that. And I thought, well, like my friend has a pretty objective view of the world. I'm going to trust his viewpoint on this. And actually, whenever I go anywhere, I can make friends. And just taking that one flip, it really did like transform like my next kind of year in university. This was like, I was in like my second year. I was just about to go into the third year. I was going into like a place where I didn't know anyone. I was like, I'd just broken up with my girlfriend. So, and I did have these friends, but they weren't at my uni. And I'd spent the last like 3 years at university just with my girlfriend. So I was going back into like the third year with absolutely no one who I knew. And like you're in your third year, like people are pretty settled down, it seems like, in their own friendships. So I really had to like push myself and make friends, and I made tons of friends. So if you are struggling with being able to make progress in something that you want to make progress in, it's probably because you have so many negative viewpoints about that thing that you just don't think it is possible, and you're not acting like it is because you just don't think it is. And so this might be a really good thing to try. Just trying visualizing these things, because you're not deluding yourself. You're not saying, oh, this is definitely the case, and like, even though factually it isn't, you're just trying to delude yourself. You're not trying to do that. You're just trying to give yourself a positive view of how the future will be. Your brain, if you do that enough repetitions, eventually turns it into like a memory. And so then that informs how you then act in the world. Visualizations aren't going to do everything for you. You've still actually got to do the work. We can't just like sit there and like think that we're going to be the next CEO, and then suddenly someone comes and hands us like, like a slip saying, yes, become the CEO of Amazon. Like it's not going to work like that. You've still got to make the progress. But this should be like something that helps and actually is a really good way that steers you not only towards your goal, but also starts to get rid of some of those like thoughts and feelings that are actually steering you away. Because again, what if you wanted to become the next Jeff Bezos, but every single thought you had every single day told you couldn't? You're gonna give up. You're not going to do it because our brains are rational. They are going to listen. They are going to see what is surrounding them and make informed decisions on that. What if you want to get a girlfriend, but every single thought in your head says that you're ugly and you're weird and no one will love you and X, Y, and Z? You're not going to get a girlfriend because because again, our brains are rational, and even if the beliefs and information they're drawing from isn't true or real, our brains are still logically minded. They're still going to take what we know and they're going to draw out reasonable assumptions and kind of decisions from that information. So yeah, give like visualizations a go. In the book, he recommends doing 3 weeks of these, not questioning it, not kind of like challenging it, just doing it. So that's exactly what I'm also doing now. I'm going to do 3 weeks of not questioning it, and then I'm going to keep on doing it until, I don't know what, until I die, maybe, I guess. Or maybe until like, like a fall off for a couple of weeks or a couple of months or something. And then I'll then just get back to doing it again. But yeah, just give this a go every single day. Well, day 1 right now after this video, or in fact right now, like open up your little notes app on your phone and type in like, maybe say like as many of the kind of thoughts you actually have about the thing you want to make progress in, and just be honest. Like, it could be positive and it could be negative, it can be whatever. And we're not here to judge the thoughts, we're not here to say whether they're true or false. We're just here literally just to point out which ones are the ones that are negative. And then we say take the top 5 that seem like they're probably the most potent. And we just kind of just want to flip them. We just want to engage our imagination. Pardon me. We just want to engage our imagination into thinking hypotheticals. Yeah, okay, I'm terrible at like cold calling, or okay, yeah, I'm really terrible at maths. But hypothetically, what would it look like if I was really good? Or, oh yeah, I just don't have any willpower, or I give up at the last, like the first hurdle at anything. Okay, yeah, but hypothetically, what would my life look like if I didn't? And then we just need to create a situation that we can remember. Like, just imagine like a small moment. This could be like walking in the woods. This could be like sitting at your desk writing like really hard. This could be like opening your like results page and seeing like an A. This could be like seeing the partner of your dreams and walking up confidently to them and saying hi. This could be opening up your YouTube analytics and seeing something incredible. We want to try and build up as much detail to that as possible, and then we then want to attribute a kind of an emotion to it, because the emotions will make it stick. And so just go through those 5 like most potent things and just try doing that every single day. Spend like 1 to 2 minutes on each visualization, just closing your eyes, going through it, feeling the emotion, thinking about it. You can even write about it, and just do that for 3 weeks and see how you feel. Worst comes to worst, you've spent maybe 10 to 20 minutes for 3 weeks, like kind of wasting it. That's the worst case scenario. But what's the best case scenario from that? Like, if you really give a shit about your dreams and if you really care about your goals and your progress towards something, and this thing can give you like a really good acceleration, or even just like steer you in a happier way of achieving that thing, like, how much is that worth? It's probably worth 10 to 20 minutes a day for the rest of your life. So yeah. So I will see you guys in the next video. Give that a go. Write in the comments what you think. And I hope you have a lovely day. See ya.